Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311 or visit nyc.gov.
This is New York City Comptroller Scott Stringer. My mandate is to watch the city's bottom line and grow our economy. That's why I hired the city's first chief diversity officer to increase contract opportunities for minorities and women across city agencies. If you are a minority or women-owned business and want advice on working with the city or contracting with our office, check out the Diversity Initiatives section of our website at controller.nyc.gov. Thank you.
This is Letitia James, New York City's public advocate. My office serves as a direct link between everyday New Yorkers and city government. Think of it as a watchdog that provides oversight for city agencies, investigates citizen complaints about city services, and makes policy recommendations. If you are in need of assistance and have had trouble getting through to 311, please call my office at 212-669-7250 or get help at pubadvocate.nyc.gov.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311.
Our doors are always open, so it is illegal for a taxi to refuse you service because of your race, ethnicity, cultural background, disability, or gender, or based on your destination if it is within New York City, Westchester, Nassau, or Newark Airport. Please note, borough taxis can't pick you up in most parts of Manhattan. If you are refused service, contact 311. Make sure you have the medallion or borough taxi number, pickup location, date, and time. We need to know. You can make a difference.
Hello, I'm Donna Corrado, Commissioner of the Department for the Aging. Are you age 60 or older? Our 260 senior centers offer social, cultural, educational, and health and wellness workshops, assistance with benefits, nutritious meals, and other life-giving activities. To learn more about DFTA, please call 311 or visit nyc.gov/aging. And remember to check on your elderly neighbors, especially during extreme weather emergencies.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311 or visit nyc.gov.
Hello, I'm Parks Commissioner Mitchell Silver. New York City Parks is fostering equity in our parks by creating thriving public spaces for all New Yorkers. The Community Parks Initiative is bringing that work to neighborhoods that need it most by investing more city resources, including funds, staff, recreational programming, and partnership building in 55 historically under-resourced communities. The Community Parks Initiative will engage New Yorkers in rebuilding their parks, including 35 playgrounds in the project's first phase. Our goal will create new reasons to get out and get fit, and to connect more of us to green spaces in our neighborhoods. For more information on the Community Parks Initiative, upcoming public meetings, and to find out how you can get involved, visit the New York City Parks website at nyc.gov/parks or call 311.
This is Manhattan Borough President Gail Brewer announcing my new storefront Northern Manhattan office. Whether it's helping to protect mom and pop stores, improving technology in schools, or encouraging community and rooftop gardens, we are proud to be helping Manhattan neighborhoods. Learn more by visiting the new office at 431 West 125th Street or calling 212-531-1609 for an appointment.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311.
If you're a vendor interested in doing business with the city, we encourage you to visit the City Comptroller's Vendor Roadmap. It can be found on the Comptroller's website, comptroller.nyc.gov. The Vendor Roadmap will give you essential information, requirements, and considerations for existing and prospective vendors, and also includes helpful links for MWBE and emerging business enterprises.
Hi, I'm Department of Buildings Commissioner Rick Chandler, reminding New Yorkers to always observe safety precautions on and near.
Morning, everyone. Thank you, and good morning to everyone. We have got a lot to do on this Monday morning. First, we're going to go through some bills that we need to sign now related to a variety of matters. At the end, we're going to do the street renaming. So we're going to try and move this along. I know a lot of people are here for the street renamings, and it's very important to all of us. Just bear with us a few minutes while we deal with these other matters first. I want to welcome everyone. The first item of business is Intro 558A, which requires the Park Department to issue an annual report on its compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. The sponsor is Councilmember Mark Levine, the Parks and Recreation Committee Chair. Signing this bill comes at a very meaningful moment for this city and this nation, the 25th anniversary of the ADA. A number of us joined with its author, Senator Tom Harkin, for the first ever Disability Pride Parade a few weeks ago, also an extraordinary moment. So signing this bill at this time is an incredible statement as to how far this city and this nation have come over 25 years. This is literally, the ADA was literally one of the nation's greatest pieces of civil rights legislation, and it was the first in the world for any nation addressing the needs of people with disabilities as a fundamental right. The bill we'll be signing today helps carry on the ADA's legacy of equality and fairness and things that have made such a difference in people's lives that have been achieved through the ADA. The bill will ensure that we have full and equal access to all our parks facilities. The reports required in this bill will tell us which parks facilities comply with ADA standards for accessible design, which don't, and what work must be done to remedy the situation. My administration firmly believes in the goal and will achieve the goal of making New York City the most accessible city, not only in this nation, but on this earth. And I want to thank all those who were part of bringing this bill to fruition. Of course, our Parks Commissioner, Mitchell Silver, our Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities, Commissioner Victor Calisi, Speaker Melissa Mark Viverito. Thanks to all of them. Now it's my honor to introduce Councilmember Mark Levine.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. You and your team have been incredible partners on this bill, including, of course, the Parks leadership and Commissioner Silver and Chris Noel and not to mention Commissioner Calise. All of us want New York City parks to be accessible to every New Yorker, no matter their background and no matter whether they have a disability. Unfortunately, today, we're just not there yet. Only 20% of parks' comfort stations and bathrooms are fully accessible. Only 10% of playgrounds are fully accessible. And we have Robert Moses to blame for that, but it's on us to fix it. And the possibilities here are really inspiring if you look at cutting-edge design of playgrounds that allow children of different ability levels to play together effortlessly, unconsciously. And that should be our design for every playground. And we hope to get there one day. And I firmly believe by getting the data out there, the reporting out there on the kind of progress we're making as a city towards getting to the ultimate goal of full accessibility, it'll spur all of us to action. So thank you again, Mr. Mayor, and to your team for helping make this bill a reality. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We will now sign the legislation into law. Next item is Intro 847A, which requires a Taxi and Limousine Commission to study the impact of the growth in the taxi and for-hire vehicle industries. Sponsored by Councilmember Ydanis Rodriguez, Chair of our Transportation Committee in the City Council, and Councilmember Rory Lantzman. The taxi and for-hire vehicle industries are changing the landscape of our transportation network in this city, and they're experiencing dramatic growth. This industry is now transporting more passengers per day than the Long Island Railroad and Metro North combined. The study required by this legislation will examine how this growth affects mobility in this city and other factors in the life of our city. I want to thank TLC Chair Mira Joshi, DOT Commissioner Polly Trottenberg, DEP Commissioner Emily Lloyd, Director of the Mayor's Office of Sustainability Nilda Mesa, again Speaker Melissa Mark Viverito, and now introduce Chair Ydanis Rodriguez.
Good morning, everyone, and I want to thank our great progressive mayor, Billy Blasio, and Speaker Melissa Marviverito for their leadership on this issue. The rapid growth of the for-hire sector caused deep concern among my colleagues and I. After much deliberation and discussion with industry stakeholders, we discovered the best path forward to allow us to truly understand this growth impact. This process, though, provided much needed wins for the everyday drivers, both licenses and everyday. The agreement reached allows our city to develop recommendations to best fight congestion while also beginning conversations surrounding drivers' wages, MTA surcharges, and consumer protections. These have long been the priority of this council, and with this agreement, we take a huge leap forward to move on them. I'm proud of the deal that we have been able to come to and look forward to evaluating the results of this study. As I have said before, cooperation should be part of the solution of our city's problems, not the source. This agreement allows every stakeholder to come to the table to operate in a way that's best for every community in our city. Thank you again to Speaker Melissa Marviverito and our Mayor, Bill de Blasio, my colleague at the Council.
Thank you very much, Jeff Chair. We'll now sign the bill into law. Democracy is moving swiftly this morning. Okay, next we have two pieces of legislation. We will treat them together. Intros 89A and 830A, which strengthen the Human Resources Administration's Adult Protective Services Program. Sponsors are Speaker Melissa Mark Viverito, Councilmember Paul Vallone, Chair of the Subcommittee on Senior Centers, and Councilmember Stephen Levin, the Chair of the General Welfare Committee. These bills step up our efforts to protect our most vulnerable fellow New Yorkers. The APS program helps adults with physical and mental challenges live safely in their homes. Many are unable to carry out basic activities of daily living, like preparing meals and washing clothes. Intro 830A ensures that city employees are trained to identify individuals in need and connect them to services that will help them maintain independent living. We're making sure that we're on the front lines of helping those who need the help the most. Intro 89A requires HRA to report semi-annually on referrals to these adult protective services, allowing us to monitor the effectiveness and efficiency of the program and show who we are helping, but also that those who may have been referred were ultimately eligible, and making sure that no one ineligible was referred. This will allow us to make sure the services, of course, are going to those who truly need them. I'd like to introduce the Commissioner of the Human Resources Administration, Steve Banks.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. These two pieces of legislation are very important pieces of our reform efforts in that they provide additional information to the public about the work that we're doing and also strengthen our ability to train staff and city agencies to provide the services that very vulnerable New Yorkers need. We look forward to continuing to partner with Councilmember Levin and Councilmember Vallone on these important issues, and I want to acknowledge the leadership of Dan Tietz and Deborah Holt-Knight at the agency on these issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce Councilmember Steve Levin.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I want to thank Commissioner Steve Banks and my colleague Paul Vallone, the entire team over at HRA, and the de Blasio administration for supporting this legislation, which is going to give the public more information so that we can make better policy. The area of adult protective services traditionally has been an area that needs help. It has been underserved, and so we need to have all the information possible for the public, for the policymakers, so that we can make effective policy moving forward. I want to thank Steve Banks, the Commissioner, for tackling this mammoth issue, because it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of resources, but collectively we're going to be able to get there. But I want to thank the Speaker of the City Council, Mr. Mark Viverito, for supporting this legislation, and again, Mr. Mayor, your support for making this a reality. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Councilmember Paul Vallone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 6 months ago, we had a vision. We went to the Speaker and said, hey, let's take a look at an area that we haven't looked at in a while. And she said, yes, we got the green light to do the senior task force. And these two bills were really the starting point for that. And if we didn't have the cooperation of the Mayor's administration and HRA and so many of the staff that sat together, these bills wouldn't have happened. It's an area that hasn't been looked at in almost a decade. And I sat in the courts for 25 years doing guardianship law, and it's one of the saddest parts in the city. People wind up there when they don't have anyone to watch over them. And then the city, as the last resort, has to provide those critical resources. And APS, Adult Protective Services, has this tremendous burden to do that. So these bills will allow for additional data and additional retraining, and then as we go forward, take additional steps to make sure these folks are not left alone. And you don't have to be a senior, you just have to be someone over 18 and someone in need. And without a family member, a loved one, or a guardian, you wind up in the guardianship courts lost and alone. And that's why this is a mammoth task. So I'm very proud of those who helped us get this done, especially our fellow council members in Laura Poper, Eric Bernstein, Andrea Vasquez, James Abudi, Tanya Cyrus, Jonathan Schott, and Ahmed Nazar from my office. Thank you guys for working with me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, brother. Okay. We'll now sign these bills into law. Okay, now intro 425A, which requires the New York City Climate Change Adaptation Task Force to create a plan to protect our telecommunications infrastructure in the event of certain emergencies. Sponsor is Councilmember Mark Traeger, Chair of the Committee on Recovery and Resiliency. We all know from the experience that we had in Hurricane Sandy how necessary it is to take such protections. Sandy wrought major power outages and telecommunications failures. We know we can and we in fact must improve the resiliency of our electric and communications grids. This bill requires our Climate Change Adaptation Task Force, coordinated by our Office of Recovery and Resiliency, to first evaluate the effects of climate change on this critical infrastructure. Second, propose short and long-term recommendations for improving its resiliency. We are now staring down, we all know this, we're staring down the threat of more extreme weather than we've ever known before, and we must make sure our city is fully prepared. I want to thank Speaker Melissa Mark Viverito, the Office of Emergency Management Commissioner Joe Esposito, Dan Zerilli, our Director of the Office of Recovery and Resiliency, Ann Rose, our Commissioner for IT, and now it's my pleasure to introduce Councilmember Mark Traeger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. During the worst of Sandy and immediately after the storm, residents were urged to call 911 and others wanted to check in with their loved ones. The problem was they could not reach many people during that time. After Sandy, the city acted to make our fuel distribution more resilient. The city acted to make our food distribution more resilient. But now we're taking one big step to make our communications infrastructure more resilient. I want to say that for the first time, New York City will create resiliency standards for our telecommunications industry, particularly those that use public space and public infrastructure to operate their business. If you're using public space to operate your business, you have an obligation to the public to inform us how you're taking steps to make us more safe. So I want to thank Mayor de Blasio and his team, who were very responsive and helpful. I want to thank Speaker Melissa Mark Viverito. I want to thank Dan Zerilli, the Director of the Mayor's Office of Recovery and Resiliency, Commissioner Esposito, do it as well. I want to thank the great staff in the council, Brad Reed, Ethan Lustig, Laura Pope at Matt Gawab, who have been really working very hard to get this bill passed. And I'm very proud that this took a team effort on behalf of all New Yorkers, not just Sandy victims, but all New Yorkers who are now subject to the effects of climate change. Thank you, Mayor de Blasio, for making this a reality. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay. Let's sign this bill. This is like legislative speed dating. Okay. Okay. I think we have, let's see now. We're going to go into all of them. Okay. Let me just start, as we now go into what so many people are rightfully here for, these very important and moving renaming of streets and other locations around our city in honor of people who did so much for all of us. Let me just, at the outset, thank two folks who are here with us, who we work with regularly. First of all, Michael Palladino, President of the Detectives Endowment Association, and second, Izzy Miranda, President of the Uniform EMTs, Paramedics, and Fire Inspectors, Local 2507. Thank you to both. And we're going to do everything that involves renaming together. So the first is a small but important matter. Intro 235 amends the official map of New York City, sponsored by Councilmember Jimmy Van Bramer. 2 thoroughfares in Queens are currently both named the same name, Court Square, which is understandably confusing. This bill will respectively rename the streets Court Square East and Court Square West. There's a victory for government making sense of things. Okay. Now, the main event, Intro 849. Intro 849 co-names 51 streets and public spaces in this city, gives families and communities a physical reminder of loved ones who have made such a tremendous contribution to this city. These streets will be found across all 5 boroughs, and you're going to have further evidence of how much interest and feeling there is for this moment by the list of sponsors that I'm going to read to you, the different sponsors of all the different pieces of this bill. Of course, Speaker Melissa Mark-Viverito, we thank her for her sponsorship and leadership, and the following council members: Arroyo, Barron, Cabrera, Constantinides, I always have trouble, Constantinides, Cornegie, Crowley, Kumbo, Dickens, Gibson, Johnson, King, Koo, Levin, Levine, Maisel, Matteo, Menchaca, Mendez, Miller, Reynoso, Richards, Rodriguez, Rose, Traeger, Vaca, Vallone, Van Bramer, Williams, and Deutsch. We thank all those council members for their support. Now, I want to first talk about those who served us in the way that we read about, we hear about, we see about in movies, but some people do this in real life, and they deserve our deepest appreciation and praise and remembrance, those who made the ultimate sacrifice while protecting their fellow New Yorkers. I'm going to read you a list of each of those who are being honored today. First, Detective First Grade Brian Moore, renaming Brian Moore Way. He served for 5 years in the NYPD, served with great distinction, rose up to the position of the anti-crime unit, and was shot tragically while on patrol. Detective Dennis Garraway, an 8-year veteran of the NYPD, died of injuries sustained after responding to a fire in an apartment building trying to save lives. Philip Cardillo Way, 5-year veteran of the NYPD, shot while responding to an officer in distress call. EMT Luis de Pena Jr. Square. He died of illnesses resulting from work at Ground Zero. Bruce Reynolds Way, an officer killed on 9/11 while trying to rescue victims trapped in the World Trade Center. Captain James McDonnell Way died of injuries he sustained while responding to a fire. Police Officer Ronald G. Becker Jr. Way, 20-year veteran of the NYPD who died from illnesses contracted participating in the rescue and recovery efforts after 9/11. Firefighter John P. Sullivan Way also died from illness related to the recovery work at Ground Zero. Officer Thomas Choi Avenue, member of the Triborough Bridge and Tunnel Authority Police Department, who died after being struck by a driver. All of these individuals deserve our particular feeling, emotion, praise, and remembrance, and this is one of the ways that we will, for them, their families, for their communities, remember them for the rest of time. Next, some other very exceptional men and women whose public service to the city will never be forgotten. Robert Lowry Way, honoring the first African-American fire commissioner in this city's history. Sergeant Charles H. Cochran Way, honoring the first openly gay NYPD officer. Wayne Chops Derrick Way, beloved employee of PS 18 in Staten Island for 34 years. Assistant Principal Linda A. Romano Place, a devoted assistant principal at the American Experience Academy at IS 227 in Brooklyn. Dorothy Skinner Way, she was a great Harlem community leader who worked for the DOE as well, active in helping the NYPD from the community in the 1970s and 80s, and devoted to making Harlem a safer place. Here's one a lot of people, I'm sure, will feel because it's touched so many lives. Mitchell Lama Way. Well, there were 2 people behind that legislation, McNeil Mitchell and Alfred Lama, 2 state legislators who authored such a tremendously important law that transformed the city's housing landscape and created affordable housing for generations of middle-income New Yorkers. Detective Clarence M. Surgeonway, brave member of the NYC Transit Authority Police Department for nearly 4 decades. Next, I'm going to read streets dedicated to many others, and they've all done something extraordinary to get to this point where they're honored by their entire city. All 8.5 million New Yorkers are honoring them through the actions being taken today. We're also doing something special. We're honoring an iconic film that meant so much to the city, and we're honoring a Native American tribe that has a deep connection to this city and its history. It's not possible, because of so many, to go into detail on each, but all here present should know each of these are meaningful to all of us, and that's why this extraordinary action is being taken by renaming a part of our city after each and every one of these individuals, and we are forever grateful to all of them. Here are the streets that are going to be co-named, and I'm going to do it by borough. First, in the Bronx, Bill Toomey Place, Carmen Rosa Way, Gregorio Luperon, Way, Henry Red Allen Way, Maxine Sullivan Way. Streets to be co-named in Brooklyn, Brianna Ojeda Way, Catherine Macaulay High School Way, Do the Right Thing Way, you guessed it, Father Connie Mobley Boulevard, Gus Vlahavas Place, Louis Posner Way, Peter W. Piccinini Way, Seth Kushner Way, Tanaya R. Copeland Avenue, Vincent Abate Way. Streets to be co-named in Manhattan, Albert Blumberg Way, Larry Selman Way, Leonard Harper Way, Matty Alou Way, Rabbi Sidney Kleiman Way, William Soto Way. Streets to be co-named in Queens, Allison Hope Liao Way, Bishop Joseph M. Sullivan Way, Dennis Sintelas Way, Frank Kaolinsky Way, James English Way, Marjorie Sewell Cotley Way, Mary's Way, Matinecock Way, Sheila Pecoraro Way. Streets to be co-named in Staten Island, Art Hall Way, Dr. Merrill Efron Way, Dominic Dom Lambert Way, Elizabeth Egbert Way, and Mrs. Rosemary Way. Some of my colleagues from the City Council want to speak to these extraordinary renamings and what they mean for our communities, so I'm going to call on them in the order handed to me now, starting with Councilmember Jimmy Vaca.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you all. It's my pleasure today to recognize the contribution made by Bill Toomey in my district. And Bill Toomey was known as the Bronx historian, and he educated people throughout the borough on the history of the Bronx, the history of each and every street name. He knew what the Bronx was many, many, many years ago, and so many people in my borough don't know the history of our borough. So he really performed exemplary service, not only as Bronx historian, but also in the many charitable events he took part in and the many civic events he led and asked other residents to get involved in as well. So now in perpetuity, we're going to have a street that will always remember his contributions. And I'm honored to have been part of this. And secondly, although not in my district, before I became a councilman, I was a district manager to a community board for many, many years. And I know in Councilman King's district, we're honoring Carmen Rosa. She was my friend and my colleague for many years, an outstanding lady who I know the councilman will speak to also. But honoring her memory and her warmth is something that doing today makes it even more special for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Paul Vallone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So it was a lesson to me to find out I had the Matinicocks in my district, and they go way, way back before any of us. So the Matinicock Way is now going to be at northeast corner of Northern and Marathon Parkway. They were Native Americans, the branch of the Algonquin Nation, who once lived in Flushing, Pummonik, College Point, Whitestone, Bayside, Douglaston, Little Neck, and many other areas. The Matinicock Native Americans are remembered as a noble and harmonious people who shared the land with settlers for Europe and paved the way for many of our new Americans. And there's an officer who 43 years ago was slain in the line of duty, Philip Cardillo. And for many years that just really didn't happen. And one of the first things that we did when I took office was say that we were proud to host Philip's family here in our district in College Point. Even though he didn't live with us, we felt like we adopted the family. So to honor Philip and his family, every cadet now who steps out of the police academy will see Philip Cardillo Way. And I think what better way for him who was slain doing his job, as so many of our officers are, just 5 years into his position, was killed in something that was controversial then, but wasn't. He was doing his job. And now he will forever be remembered, and that's the least we could do for Philip and his family. So it's an honor at College Point to now have Philip Cardillo Way as soon as you come out of the police academy. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Steve Levin.
Thank you, Mayor. Today we are co-naming the corner of Hoyt Street and Bergen Street in Brooklyn after Brianna Ojeda. Brianna died several years ago. She was overcome by an asthma attack, and her mother rushed her to Long Island College Hospital, but unfortunately on the way, she was stopped going the wrong way down a one-way street, and she succumbed to her asthma attack. Unfortunately, the police officer that stopped her did not know CPR, and as a result, moving forward, there's been legislation introduced in the state, which we'll hope will see passage sometime very soon, that will require all police officers to have CPR training, and that is as a testament to Brianna's blessing to this world and her parents' tenacity. And so we want to thank her parents and her family for their dedication. And this is a great way to honor her contribution to our city moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Adonis Rodriguez.
First of all, I would like to say thank you to the member of the NYPD for the great job that you did yesterday. Even though I was together with Councilman Coney yesterday, Robert and David Greenfield, I know we were in Israel yesterday, I know, and I've been told by a member of my community how great job you did in Northern Manhattan as we were celebrating the Dominican Day Parade, so thank you. Four of the many names put forward today are based in my district and represent so many concerns of every community. By naming Blomberg, Alo, Reynolds, and the Peña Way, we honor fallen heroes and community leaders, ensuring their much-deserved legacy. Luis de Peña and EMT workers rushed to the Twin Towers as others rushed away on that fateful day. The day he saved dozens of lives, though he contracted the beginning of a disease that will ultimately claim his life. So many in my community in Northern Manhattan lost their lives that day or because of that day, and today I'm proud to honor their legacy. Albert Blomberg was a longtime community leader to pave the way for equity in Northern Manhattan and New York City, hoping to fight for a stronger voice for working class and middle class community. Matia Lowe, with his brothers, Felipe and Moises, they were the three brothers that played together for San Francisco. They became role models for many children in my community and in the Dominican Republic. Finally, Bruce Reynolds, a member of the Port Authority Police, like so many in our community, lost his life serving as a hero during 9/11. These local heroes are shining examples in our community, and I'm proud to have the opportunity to honor their legacy. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Danique Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to all the family and friends that come out today to honor the street co-naming of Detective First Grade Brian Moore. I'd like to thank the team at the 105 precinct I see out here, that fantastic leadership, and of course the Queen South for the work that you do. Most of all, I'd like to thank Irene and Raymond for sharing your son, Christine for sharing your brother. Detective First Grade Brian Moore served us as an outstanding civil servant and a courageous police officer, proudly hailing from a family of such. He gave his life to protect the residents of New York City, and in particular, Southeast Queens, the district that I represent. While we cannot offer or dedicate a monument to sufficiently commemorate his sacrifice, we will seek to memorialize it in this way. Today, this legislation will be enacted, will co-name the intersection of 222nd Street and 92nd Road in Queens Village as Detective First Grade Brian Moore Way. Here at this location outside the 105 precinct, Detective Moore's memory will receive a physical delineation to mark the transcendence of his service. To this street renaming, we offer from the community of Southeast Queens to the family and to the friends of Detective Brian Moore. And let me just say, as a lifelong civil servant and the chair of civil service and labor, it's such an honor to see so many civil servants being recognized for the work that they are doing for this great city today, not just those who have given their lives in their line of duty, but those who remain and their families are here. So I thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I thank everyone for coming out and being supportive. Thank you.
Councilmember Donovan Richards.
Thank you for the kickstand, Mr. Mayor. It's the one day I'm as tall as the mayor. But it's an honor to, I'm not yet? Okay, all right. But it is an honor to be here this morning, and I have 3 street renamings in my district that we're doing today. And co-naming streets is an important way to connect our community leaders from the past with the residents of the present and our future. So our children and members of our community will forever remember the individuals we're honoring today. The first person is Detective Dennis Guerra, and I want to acknowledge his wife here, who's here, Kathy, for the sacrifice that Detective Dennis Guerra gave just around a year ago when responding to a residential apartment building fire where he paid the ultimate sacrifice while saving others, gave his life. And one thing I want to say is that although he's gone, his spirit will never die, and that's for all the people we've lost over the years. And I know it's the summer, and one of the greatest memories I have of hanging out with the family a little bit was during the summer last year when they spoke of how he loved to pull out the barbecue grill and grill. So I'm hoping that this summer you remembered Detective Guerra and certainly pulled that grill out, but we're forever grateful for his sacrifice. And we'll be renaming 1490 Grenada Place and Faber Terrace in Far Rockaway in Bayswater, where he lives. So I'm very grateful for his sacrifice, and God bless you and the family. The next family that we'll be renaming a street for is Sheila Paquero, I hope I said it right, James English, and Mary Trachtenberg. And their advocacy will never be forgotten in our community. Mary Trachtenberg devoted her time to the Sheree Tefillah Sisterhood in Far Rockaway, and the Far Rockaway chapters of Hadassah and Banu Berith, the PTA, and the Girl Scouts. She was instrumental in having parking removed from one side of Brunswick Avenue and placing a stop sign at an intersection, which helped improve traffic conditions and prevent accidents. Mary's Way will be on Virginia Street between Central Avenue and Brunswick Avenue. The next person I'm paying homage to is James English, who served as a president and vice president and board chairman and vice chair of the Rosedale Civic Association and its board of governors. He was also a founding member of the Eastern Queens Alliance and formed a working relationship between Rosedale and the organization SAFE. He helped Rosedale receive several grants, which led to the purchasing of pollution monitoring equipment through SAFE. James English Way will be on 242nd Street between 138th Avenue and North Conduit Avenue in Rosedale. And then the last individual, Sheila Pecoraro, I hope I said it right. Did I say it right? Pecoraro, got it, was a dedicated activist who committed herself to improving the education of Rosedale students and making the neighborhood safer. In 1970, she advocated for the funding of the Rosedale Library and led the sit-in that prevented the library from closing due to the city's fiscal crisis. And Mr. Mayor, she wants a new library. She organized a protest that resulted in the placement of traffic lights at a five-way intersection, in which she helped to prevent countless fatalities. Sheila Pecoraro Way will be on Huxley Street between 147th Avenue and 243rd Street, and I would just like to thank the families once again and say that their sacrifice will never be forgotten. God bless you all.
Councilmember Mark Levine.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, some of the most heroic figures in New York City history are unknown to most New Yorkers, and that's certainly true of Robert Lowry, who served as our city's first ever African-American fire commissioner. And I'm just thrilled that we're going to be able to acknowledge that heroism by co-naming the street in front of where he lived for much of his life in southern Washington Heights, on Riverside Drive between 155th and 158th Street, just a block away from where he rests now in the cemetery. Mr. Lowry gave 30 years of his life in service to the fire department. Started as a fire marshal. He had a career of extraordinary number of arrests in that role. He rose through the ranks, becoming a lieutenant, deputy commissioner, and then in 1966, he was named the first ever African-American fire commissioner by Mayor Lindsay. And that was not an easy era to lead that department. In retrospect, we've come to call that the war years, a time when there were an unprecedented number of fires in the city from arson and other causes. But Commissioner Lowry won nearly universal praise for his leadership during that era. And most impressively, I think he won the confidence of the rank and file of the department, which at the time was virtually exclusively white. And many of them had opposed his ascension to commissioner. But he won them over because of his abilities and his dedication. And he served as a role model for generations now, including to people of no less stature than Mayor David Dinkins, who has often said that he felt that Commissioner Lowry actually was one of the people who opened the door for his own ascent to the mayoralty. And I'm just so happy that, I guess 14 years after his death, he passed in 2001, we're finally going to acknowledge him on the street where he spent much of his life. And I want to thank the family of Commissioner Lowry, especially his two daughters who still live in the neighborhood and fought so hard to make this happen. And of course, the Vulcan Society, which was a big force in bringing this to reality. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Vanessa Gibson.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, and good morning to each of you, to all of my colleagues who are here. It is an honor and a privilege to stand with all of you as we commemorate the life and achievements of so many incredible New Yorkers. I am here to speak about two very special street co-namings in my district in the Bronx. Police Officer Ronald G. Becker, Jr., who was among one of the first responders at Ground Zero and spent several months securing the site following the vicious attack on September 11th. He went on to spend most of his time serving as a volunteer, helping to identify many of the victims' remains. During his 20-year career in the New York Police Department, he received numerous awards for his accomplishments and many different arrests. He was honored with the Excellent Police Duty Award. He also served as a United States Navy. He retired from the force in 2006 and later succumbed to complications due to his work at Ground Zero in 2012. I firmly believe there is no greater way to honor his memory than by adding his name to Way of the Finest, which is directly in front of the 4-2 Police Precinct in the Bronx at 830 Washington Avenue. And I want to recognize Bronx Community Board 3, John Dudley, our former commanding officer, Deputy Inspector Stephen Ortiz, our new commanding officer, Captain Jimmy Ryan, and all of the community residents that really made sure that we recognize Police Officer Ronald Becker. In addition, today also marks the addition of the name of legendary jazz singer Maxine Sullivan to Ritter Avenue between Prospect and Union Avenues in the Morrisania community. Mrs. Sullivan's musical career spanned 40 years, in which she toured the United States and Europe. She was nominated for a Tony Award and was the first African-American jazz star to have her own weekly radio series. She temporarily left show business to become a mother raising her daughter. She also became a nurse, served as PTA president, and then started a not-for-profit, The House That Jazz Built. She was a true Renaissance woman who contributed her time and talents to all of New York City and the Bronx. I am thankful to our mayor, to our speaker, our chair of parks. Thank you, Mark Levine, our commissioner. Thank you so much to everyone. And in addition to those, to police, to Detective First Class Brian Moore's family, and Detective Dennis Guetta, and all of our public servants that gave their life to serve the needs of others. We are so thankful to God that they created these people to come onto our community to serve us with such honor and dignity and respect. We are thankful for their life, their labor, their legacy, and may the work that they have done speak for generations to come. God bless you all. May God continue to bless our families, and know that we continue to mourn with you, we will walk with you, and most of all, we continue to pray for you. Congratulations to all of you today, and a wonderful shout out to Mr. Spike Lee, Do the Right Thing Way. I represent the Bronx, but I am proud to say I was born and raised in Bedford-Stuyvesant, so I want to recognize you and thank you for the work you've done as well. Thank you to everyone, and thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Andy King.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. To all the families here today, we're going to continue to pray for you. Your family member gave the ultimate sacrifice of service to the city of New York, and these signs that we're placing all across the city will be a beacon of light for us all to remember and all to inspire in the service work that your family member has done. But I'd like to talk about the young lady who was an inspiration for me in the 12th District. Sister Carmen Rosa and her family is here, Brother Al, and I have to say Little Carmen. Thank you for sharing your mother with us. I do say she was an inspiration to me. When I first was elected here, the first person that I ever gave a proclamation was Miss Carmen Rosa, because she was one of the first people in the neighborhood when I was running around with a whole bunch of children trying to figure out how to save kids, that she stood up with me and gave me true support. She served the community for decades and gave her life and was an inspiration and just gave us all the real information that we needed as a community board district manager for the city of New York. I say to you, Brother George Torres, who's filling in her shoes, you got some big shoes to fill, my brother, and I'm going to be praying for you as well. So, Father Gorman and everyone from the 12th District, remember, on East 229th Street, right where the community board, where she spent a lot of hours in and helping New York, that we were going to be changing that to Carmen Rosa's Way, East 229th Street and White Plains Road. And to all the families, again, God bless, stay strong, and we got your back. Take care.
Councilmember Mark Traeger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 3 street renamings in my district. I'll begin first with Father Connie Mobley, who was a spiritual leader in the Coney Island community. He exemplified the idea that faith, family, and community are really the pillars of any neighborhood. I also want to recognize Seth Kushner, who was a photographer whose work reached national publications. He meant a lot, particularly to the Lincoln High School family in Coney Island, where he volunteered his time to work with students. He believed that kids were much more than a test score, and he brought out amazing gifts and abilities in those students to bring out their photography and artistic abilities and skills. We lost him at a very young age. I also want to recognize the original Mr. Brooklyn, Lou Pausner, who was someone who was a World War II veteran. He invested in Coney Island before all the recent attention and glamour. He held a small business on Mermaid Avenue. He was a community board member all the way to his late elder years. I recall one time calling him at 7:30 in the morning, and he responded, "Good afternoon, Mr. Traeger." I said, "Mr. Pausner, it's 7:30 in the morning." He says, "Mr. Traeger, at my age and in my work ethic, it's already the afternoon." These are individuals that were truly iconic and meant a lot to so many. And I just want to commend all the families and guests who are here today, and particularly thank as well Detectives Moore and Guerra. Detective Guerra came in to serve in PSA 1 in my district. And he ran into Unity Tower in Coney Island when others were running out, him and his partner. And we are forever grateful and in debt to the sacrifice and service and the ultimate sacrifice he paid to our community. God bless all of you. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Peter Koo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm here to speak for one street renaming in my community in honor of a little girl, Allison Hope Nell. She was killed while walking on the street, while crossing the street with her grandmother, and she was only 3 years old. So we don't want this to happen to any other families' children. That's why we want to rename one street in Flushing for Allison Hope Nell Way. When people drive around the corner on the street, I hope they will look up the sign and be extra careful. An innocent young girl, 3 years old, was killed there, was crashed there. And when people cross the streets, I hope they will remind them, be extra careful when crossing the streets. But the streets are like the tiger mouth. Be extra careful. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and the City Council members for passing this bill. Thank you.
Next, a very good man, but I never like to introduce him. You'll see why. Councilmember Robert Cornegy.
Good afternoon, and thank you, everybody, for being here. You know, a few hours ago, myself and some of my colleagues in city and state government were actually literally in the Dead Sea in Israel. And when we thought about getting back and what it meant to get back, I knew that this was on the agenda, and we did everything we could to get back. And Adonis, when I was standing up, looked over at me, and he was like, "Have you had a chance to take a shower yet?" Just so you know, Adonis, I did take a shower. Thank you. So I have two street namings. One is a very unique street naming, and the other one is more traditional. We are co-naming a very important street. This is a unique co-naming. It's the first the City Council has done in many, many years to name a street for a work of art. Like when great things happen, people don't know what happens behind the scenes, and it took a lot in order to get this done. So I want to formally thank Jimmy Van Bramer, who's not here, my speaker, Melissa Mark Viverito, and the mayor, who were committed to make sure that works of art are memorialized as well as individuals, and did everything they could to make sure that the policy reflected the city's need to do that. So we began working on this last June, which was the 25th anniversary of the filming of Do the Right Thing Way. I asked him not to do that, y'all should know. Neighbors and the Community Board and Community Board 3 signed petitions and voted in favor of this co-naming. Spike Lee held an enormous block party on this location on 6/28/14, and I'd like to say that block party included tens of thousands of people and not one incident during that day. So, and on a personal note, I had a ball. Thanks, Spike. Residents still remember the filming, this important filming, as it remains important today for its complicated portrayal of Bedford-Stuyvesant. Do the Right Thing Way is also being featured in a very important upcoming feature film focusing on the President and the First Lady's first date. Many of you don't know that they celebrated their first date by watching Do the Right Thing. So we'll be memorializing that, Spike, in a very important film. And then secondly, Detective Clarence M. Surgeon Way. It's a perfect example of a traditional co-naming for a local hero. Detective Surgeon was beloved by his family and neighbors who advocated for this recognition. His wife was with us at the vote. He served in NYPD for 39 years and retired with the rank of detective first grade in '94. He's remembered for his braveness and courage as a transit patrolman. He was commended for repeatedly entering the subway entrance to bring passengers to safety during a subway fire, and for once saving a woman who had fallen onto the train tracks. He was active in his local community, and he stood with MLK during his I Have a Dream speech. Thank you so much, the Surgeon family, and thank you so much, Spike Lee, for putting Bedford-Stuyvesant back on the map.
Before our last speaker, I'd also like to thank Spike Lee for his extraordinary contributions to this city, congratulate him today, and ask him why he has not yet fixed the New York Knicks. Really like to see some more results there, Spike.
This year.
This year for sure, right? It's coming. Right.
This year.
A lot of optimists in the room. Okay, last speaker, and we thank him, Council Member Jumaane Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Speaker Melissa Margarito, for supporting this. And we moved forward kind of quickly, so thank you very much for everyone's patience. I did want to say a great thank you to the members of the service, fire department, and police department, who we're recognizing today. They took a job where they were asked to risk their lives. They did so, and it was called upon them, and they did so as well. In the many discussions that we have in the city, I want to make sure that we remember that the sacrifices are real and the dangers that people face are real. And in this case, there were also other civil servants and EMTs that also gave their lives, and many other folks who gave their lives in service. So thank you. We have Catherine McCauley High School. Also, I wanted to just say thank you to Spike Lee, because many of the issues that I work on the council, I've learned about and seen in your films for many, many years. So thank you so much. We at my district want to celebrate Catherine McCauley High School. It was a beacon in the East Flatbush community for decades, known for its academic excellence and positive community impact. It was located at 710 East 37th Street and served the young women of Brooklyn from 1942 until 2013. In 1991, McCauley became the first and is still the only all-girls Catholic high school in Brooklyn or Queens to earn the prestigious title Nationally Recognized School of Excellence from the U.S. Department of Education. For many years, nearly 100% of its students graduated on time and were accepted to college. Many earned college scholarships at a rate at or above that of other Catholic high schools in Brooklyn. Unfortunately, the school that was built during World War II and has endured many storms and difficult times was a victim of the economic downturn several years ago. Though the all-girls Catholic school closed in 2013, I'm proud that it will forever live on by co-naming East 37th Street and Foster Avenue Catherine McCauley High School Way. Again, I want to thank the mayor and the speaker and Jimmy Van Bramer for supporting this initiative, which was backed by a tremendous amount of alumni and local residents. There is a school now named Crystal Way, and hopefully they will continue the excellence that was there. I want to ask the people from my district to please stand really quickly for their advocacy in getting this done. Many of them are here today, like Mr. Lee Barnett, Community Board 17 Transportation Chair, Ms. Carol Barnett, Community Board 17 staff, Josephine Valente, teacher and administrator, Jewel Brown from 1979, was student, Melba Brown, parent in 79, Sister Margaret Dempsey, 64, June George, 88, Peggy Lake, 64, Sister Rosemary McGuire, Carol McIntosh, MD, 79, Renee Hastic Motes, 98, Camille Hastic Ortiz, 96, Jamila Rose Prasadi, 98, Sharon Rose, parent, 94 and 95, Marion Helen Taylor, 84, and Imani Hastic. I look forward to joining all of them to unveil Catherine McCauley High School Way in the coming months. Thank you very much.
Okay, now, whenever we have one of these hearings, there's an opportunity for members of the public who have signed up in advance to speak. So now we're going to hear from folks who want to speak to this legislation. The first is, he's a little shy. I'm not sure he's going to be comfortable speaking in public. I'd like to welcome Spike Lee to that microphone right there.
I'm going to be very...
He doesn't need it.
Check, check.
The summer of 1988, and I want to thank everyone for making this happen. One of the criticisms of this film was that it would be a deterrent. Many people said this film would be the reason why David Dinkins would not become the first African-American mayor of New York City. They were on the wrong side of history. Thank you very much. And thank you to all the people on that block. I know it's a pain in the ass when a movie shoots in your block. Usually they're there for a couple days. We were there the whole summer. So, we're sorry. 26 years later.
Spike, the NBC censor would have caught you there before you said that sentence, but that's okay. We know you're just being you. We thank you. Okay, I'm going to call up people now. We have a number of folks, so I'm going to call three at a time. Just each line up, and each in turn, you'll have an opportunity to give your remarks. First of all, Paula Trachtenberg-Piraneo, Sally Dill, and Anthony Antonucci and Heather Butts. Come on up.
Hello. Ooh, interesting. Hello. My name is Paula Piraneo, Paula Trachtenberg-Piraneo. My mom is gone now 20 years, but I know she would have been very humbled to have been here today. The achievements that she accomplished in her life, personal and community, was not about the awards. It was about the job that needed to be done. And a person dies 3 times in their life. 1, when their heart stops. 2, when they're buried or cremated. And 3, when someone stops saying their name. So on behalf of the Trachtenberg family, I would like to thank Councilman Richards, the mayor, the city, Mayor de Blasio, excuse me, the city, and everybody else who had a hand in honoring my mother this way. So now when we co-name the street, Virginia Street and Mary's Way, her name will be always said, and she will be remembered for generations to come. Thank you very much.
It's an honor to be here. I'm Sally Dill, and this is Alice Elliott.
And we want to thank the mayor. We wanted to thank the city council. We want to thank Community Board 2 and the Bedford Borough Commerce Block Association. We are co-naming Bedford Street in Manhattan between Grove and Christopher for Mr. Larry Selman. Larry was a philanthropist, a fundraiser, and a community activist, and he was the star of an Academy Award-nominated documentary. He also had an IQ of less than 70. But if you measured people's hearts instead of their IQs, Larry would have been off the chart. Every year, Larry raised thousands of dollars for different charities. Over the course of his life, he raised over $500,000, although he lived at the poverty level, as do many people with intellectual, developmental, and physical disabilities. This population depends on affordable housing, accessibility, and jobs to stay in their communities. We've learned that diversity means including people of all abilities. Larry's gift to our community was to challenge our idea of who can be a philanthropist, who can be a fundraiser, and who can be a leader. The Kiwanis International is using Larry's film, The Collector of Bedford Street, to train students all around the world in what's known as service leadership. At the corner of Bedford and Grove, there is the facade of the building that was shot for the Friends television series. And Larry's sign, Larry Selman Way, will go right opposite that. People from all around the world come to take pictures of the Friends building, and I hope that there will be a QR code or some kind of information to let people all around the world know the depth and diversity and what it means to be a community in New York City.
Alice is the director and producer of the film, A Collector of Bedford Street, and I had the honor of being Larry's traveling companion for 8 years once the film was completed. And we traveled to over 18 states, in 8 years, over 18 states, to Montreal and to Qatar, Doha, Qatar. But the most memorable event was when we went to the San Bernardino County in California detention center for boys. At the urging of their multimedia teacher, she wanted to do something for National Kindness Week and heard about the film and was then committed to show the film to every one of the boys who rotated through the detention center. And one time when we were in California, which many times we were there, we went there, and the boys were just mesmerized by Larry, and each got to speak to Larry. And I'll never forget how the one boy said to Larry, he was so proud of Larry that he took in homeless people. Larry got into trouble for this, living on Bedford Street, but it was just such an honor. And I've been in New York for 20 years from Missouri, and I met Larry right away. And it's wonderful living in New York. And then to have met Larry, it was the best New York moment ever.
Hello, my name is Heather Butts. This is Anthony Antonucci. We're the co-founders of a nonprofit, Health for Youth.
Could you speak up, please?
Yes, Mayor. We are here today supporting Police Officer Bruce Reynolds Way, and we want to first thank, of course, Mayor de Blasio. We want to thank the members of the Community Board in the Inwood, Washington Heights area. We want to thank all the countless people who signed petitions, who supported this effort, all the police officers who were with us through the years that we've been working on this, and a special thank you to Councilmember Idanis Rodriguez, who probably got tired of seeing us pop up at various events talking about this effort. But we want to thank him and his staff who led us every step of the way through this process. We will be forever grateful to you, and thank you. And my colleague has a few words.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I first met Bruce Reynolds in 1987 when he was a rookie cop, and I had to take him under my wing so he wouldn't get in trouble. He quickly became a great friend, as he did with everybody that he met. He was a very special person. We attended many social functions together, including the Police Olympics, and in 1995 we won the gold medal for hockey. I think we beat the Russians. As the years passed, he was not only a friend, but he was my partner and my brother. I'm here to thank everybody on behalf of his father, who still lives on Park Terrace East. He's been there for 50 years. On behalf of his wife and his 2 children. I'm also here on behalf of his extended family, the Port Authority Police Department. As Heather had said, after I retired about 6 years ago, we started a nonprofit which serves at-risk and underserved youth in New York City. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank Heather for her tireless efforts in making sure that this bill was passed. Thank you so much. God bless America.
Thank you. Next three speakers I'd like to welcome forward: Carolyn Richburg, David McGoy, and Bob Gumps.
Good morning and thank you. I want to thank the mayor, council members, the people who signed the petition. I want to thank everybody who signed the ordinary person's petition to have a street renamed for him. It's the Surgeon family. He was a police officer. He never gave up on the neighborhood. He never left the children in our neighborhood. He made at least 20 young black men on our block officers, either correction, police, or somebody. And I also would just like to say, when I get back to school in September, I can really tell students the government really works. If you understand the process and if you stick with it and don't get discouraged, the government really works for you. Whatever you want to do in this city, you can do. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is David McGoy, and yes, sure.
I mean, take it off the stand if you need. There you go.
Better. Us tall folks have to figure this stuff out,
Exactly.
right? I'm the youngest son of Wayne Chops Derrick, one of 5, and I like to say that I'm the favorite, which is why I'm here. This is a really, really tremendous honor, and you know, in our community where I grew up, I can't think of a more deserving person. You know, nowadays we have My Brother's Keeper initiative, we have the Young Men's Initiative, which are designed to deal with the challenges facing young black men. Well, you know, in the 70s and 80s, we didn't need any of that because we had Chops. He was just everything that these initiatives are supposed to do, he did single-handedly, using his position in the school, not as a principal or a teacher, but a custodian, to be a mentor and a role model and support young men and women through sports, giving them opportunities to play and learn and grow and just become their best selves. And I'm one of hundreds, if not thousands, of young men and women who were influenced by Chops' direction, his guidance, his support, and his love. But you know, the thing that I think I admire most about him is that he was such a gracious man. You know, growing up, he was always receiving honors from this group or that group and awards and recognitions, and he was always so gracious about it. And one thing that he often said was that, he said, "I'm glad that you're giving me my flowers while I could still smell them." And he's not here to smell his flowers anymore. So I just want to say on his behalf, and behalf of my family, and especially my mother, Marcella Derrick, to you, Mayor de Blasio, and the City Council, and to especially Councilmember Rose, who made this happen, I just want to say what he would have said, which is, thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Bob Gums. I am here to represent the family of Henry Red Allen. I was hoping to see his granddaughter here, but I guess she couldn't make it. I want to thank, here's the granddaughter. I'll let her speak for the family.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Introduce yourself.
Oh, my name is Jaretta Allen, and I am the granddaughter, the youngest granddaughter of Henry Red Allen, noted jazz musician. I see the connection here with Spike Lee. He did a jazz movie, and with all the police department, my father, which is Henry Red Allen's only son, served 30 years in the New York City Police Department. I also, 36 years. This is so emotional. I am so appreciative. I have great civic pride and family pride. I thank the council members and the Honorable Mayor. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, next group we're going to call forward. Grant Harper Reed, Rochelle Copeland, and Cheryl Adolph.
I'd like to thank you, Mayor de Blasio.
You can pick up the mic. Make your life
I'd
easier.
like to thank you, Mayor de Blasio, and my councilwoman, Inez Dinkins, for this honor of honoring my grandfather, Leonard Harper, with Leonard Harper Way. He was a producer, and he came from Alabama. I had a lot that I was going to say, but in your spirit, I'm going to not do it. But, and I want to also thank Spike Lee, because I worked on Do the Right Thing, and I found the street. And I went to the County Cullen Library to make a copy of a page where he mentioned me and Robert De Niro. And as I was walking out, I found a paragraph about my grandfather. And it's taken me decades to find the information about him. And he produced a lot of shows. Duke Ellington lived with him. He worked with the Marx Brothers, Ruby Keeler, and he was one of the greatest black producers ever. And just to cut it, I'd just like to read what two people said. Author Barry Singer said, Harper was one of the most important contributors to the entertainment mystique that enveloped Harlem in the 1920s and 30s. He essentially invented the nightclub floor show, Harlem Style, that everyone uptown and downtown then emulated. Jed Bernstein, the president of Lincoln Center, wrote, Leonard Harper was a major force in the development of American musical entertainments, whose creative energies, and artistic achievements left a legacy for all those who followed. And I just want to thank you again. I wrote a book about him called Rhythm for Sale, and if you go online and say rhythmforsale.com, you'll read more about it. Thank you.
Good morning. My name's Cheryl Adolph, and I'm here to represent Elizabeth Egbert and the Staten Island Museum. I want to thank Mayor de Blasio, and I would like to thank the City Council, especially Councilmember Debbie Rose, for passing this bill to honor Elizabeth Egbert with the street renaming. Elizabeth was a talented artist, educator, former president and CEO of the Staten Island Museum, and she was my friend for over 20 years. Elizabeth passed away last August, and we have missed her tenacity, her wisdom, and her creative energy every day since. We are incredibly lucky that she spent the last 12 years of her life transforming the Staten Island Museum into one of New York City's most cultural, engaging entities. It's especially fitting that the street chosen for Elizabeth Egbert Way is Snug Harbor Road, since she invested over 40 years either working or volunteering at nearly every agency on the site. During Elizabeth's tenure at the Staten Island Museum, she led the charge for the restoration of 2 triple landmarked buildings on the grounds of Snug Harbor. And I'm very proud to say that due to her unstoppable drive, the museum will open to the public on September 19th of this year. You are all invited to celebrate Elizabeth's great accomplishment at the Ribbon Cutting and Free Weekend Festival at the brand new Staten Island Museum at Snug Harbor. 1 year after Elizabeth's death, her dream has become a reality. After family, and family was always first, Elizabeth's passion has always been art. Her extensive art career included sculpture, outdoor public art, printmaking, and drawing. She had solo exhibitions all over the city, and as a teacher, whether it was at the 92nd Street Y, Hunter College, or NYU, she always gave her students her best. Elizabeth's family, her husband of 37 years, composer Carl Michelson, her son Charles Michelson, who's with us today, her daughter-in-law Lauren Moss, and daughter singer-songwriter Ingrid Michelson are all incredibly proud of her accomplishments and grateful to the city for this incredible honor. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Mayor and council members. My name is Rochelle Copeland. I'm the mother of Tanea Rochelle Copeland, who was murdered last year. Sorry.
Take your
Tanea
time,
was
it's
murdered
okay.
last year in East New York on her way visiting a friend. It's been a year, 2.5 months, but it seems to me like yesterday. I'm very honored for the street naming because Tanea was a very special child. She's a young lady who was very positive. She went to school, she graduated, she started college, she had dreams, she had goals, she aspired to be a nurse. She played in the marching band, and she was awesome. She played every drum they had in the band, and if you ever saw her play, it was just amazing. She's a very special child, very helpful in the community, and the outpouring after her death was amazing to me, because I've had so much love from the city. It's like everywhere I go to this day now, people will still, just give me hugs and pray for my daughter, and I really appreciate this. This is very special to know that every day when we come out of our home, we'll see her name there. And I really thank you all for this very, very great honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. The next three folks I'd like to call up: David Pecoraro, Tricia Becker-Valentine, and Alfredo Angara, I'm sorry.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. One of my prouder things was actually helping convince my mom to join me in supporting you for mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Councilmember Richards. And thanks also to Bill Perkins of the Rosedale Civic Association and Community Board 13 for the renaming. I'd also like to thank the family of Detective Moore. My mom was the president of the 105 Precinct Police Council before Detective Moore arrived, and I would love them to be at the ceremony when Mom is honored. Also with Spike Lee, the other connection is to the other tenant of Madison Square Garden. The night that Messier scored 3, that was the night Mom was elected to the 105 Precinct Police Council presidency. Mom's career in politics started because we moved into Rosedale almost 50 years ago, and there were 5 corners with no traffic light, also known as Demolition Derby. And my mom organized the protest for the lights and put my baby brother, Michael, on the hoods of cars to stop traffic. And now he's a little bit bigger and put a little more of a dent in the hood. I'm glad to have my brother Jim, who really spent a lot of time caring for Mom, and Lucy, and my wife Clara, and my son Sam here. Mom was an extraordinary leader in the community, fighting for the schools. She was president of 3 different schools. She was on the school board. She was head of the precinct council, organized 105th, and also helped save our libraries. And I thank you all for honoring her memory.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor de Blasio and City Council. I'm the youngest daughter of Police Officer Ronald G. Becker, Jr., and I'm very honored to be here with my mother and my family today for the renaming of 830 Washington Avenue to Ronald G. Becker, Jr. Way. There's no better way that we could spend our morning here today, as my father's anniversary is on August 19th. So I want to thank everybody for everything that you did to make this happen on behalf of me and my family. Thank you all, and God bless you.
I was hoping her speech would be a little bit longer so I could prepare myself, but we're just going to go with it. Good morning, family. Good morning. I'm used to call back and return. Good morning, family. All right. Well, almost. I wrote this down so I wouldn't cry. My mother only passed away 4 months ago, so bear with me. I call you all family, not only in the larger sense of the word, but in this new family of having someone close to all of us who has enriched the tapestry that is the city of New York. This city is greater than the parks, glass, and steel and buildings that surrounds us. This city's greatness is its people, the people who sacrifice their lives to protect it, in the children's laughter who fills its streets, in the artists and in its servants who are this city's life's blood. My mother served this city for over 26 years as district manager. She was an activist, an educator, a mentor, a community leader, a public servant, an advisor, and above all else, a friend and a mentor and a mother. Let each of the street name changes in each of these 5 boroughs stand testament not only to the lives of those honored, but to the principle that the measure of one's life cannot be quantified by the amount of wealth we amass, but by the amount of lives we touch. And in that sense, everyone in this room has known someone who is priceless. On behalf of my family, my sister, my mother, we thank the mayor. We thank Father Richard Gorman, chairman of Community Board 12. We thank Councilman Andy King, the Bronx City Council delegation, and the entire city of New York for this great honor. I thank you all. You are all my family now. I look forward to visiting all these streets. Thank you.
That was truly beautiful. I commend you. Thank you. Next 3 individuals, Remy Salas, Carl Locke, and I hope I say this right, Samaila Rose.
Hello, good morning. Everybody's starting this morning. First and foremost, I want to say thank you on the behalf of the Rojas and Alu family. We are much honored. But this is not just a great moment for my family or for baseball history, but for the city of New York. Matty Rojas Alu and his brothers Felipe and Jesus played for the Giants in the 1960s. In the midst of the wave of the Dominicans coming into the country, primarily into the city of New York. He demonstrated the fabric of the Dominican people, humility, hard work, and family. Although my uncle Matty Alu had a great career playing alongside Roberto Clemente, also Willie Mays, and he also won a batting title and also played for the greatest team, the New York Yankees. But his biggest accomplishment to me is the work he put in the community, his people, and always being there for family. If he would have been alive, even if his son Mateito was able to come from Seattle today to see this, they would have been very proud. And I say thank you. I want to thank personally Councilmember Rodriguez and the mayor and all the council members today. And this is a big recognition for the family and the 3 Alu brothers. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jamela Rose Persati, and I'm an alumni from Catherine McAuley High School. And I'll be very quick because there are a few people behind me. But I graduated in 1998 from the Catherine McAuley High School, which is located in East Flatbush, Brooklyn. And all I can really say about the school is it created a community of family. Long before leadership development for young women and for girls was even popular, there was a group of women called the Sisters of Mercy, who were attached to the Sisters of Mercy, who were at the Catherine McAuley High School, the faculty who poured into us and who invested in our lives. Some of the young women who came in were broken, some of them were just shining stars waiting to release their potential, and some of us really had, trouble past. And I must say that over the years that I've referred young people to Catherine McAuley, and even the years that I attended the school, I've seen young women come in and totally transform and do a 180. Me particularly, the school means a lot to me, because even when I was in high school and there were some challenging times in my own personal life, the school continued to reach out, and they would subsidize our tuition, and they would subsidize everybody's tuition. That's probably why we're not there anymore. But the truth is, they were generous, they were charitable, and that meant more to them than collecting money, which is more than I can say for a few other schools. I spent countless nights with other alumni raising money, calling up classes of 64 and 76, and you name it, we were there. And that's kind of what created a bond between all of us. We all felt like we were in this together, and we were gonna support young women and the education of young women. Outside of actually giving birth, the greatest gift you can give to anyone is an education. So I thank you, and I'm very grateful to Mayor de Blasio, Speaker Melissa Viverito, Jamani Williams, who is my council member in the district, and also the Community Board 17. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. My name is Detective Carl Locke, and I'm the president of the Gay Officers Action League. Back in 1981, in November, here at City Hall, they were hosting debates about what they called the Gay Rights Bill, and they wanted to add sexual orientation as a protected class. The police department at that time felt like, wait a minute, the city might pass this bill, so we are going to ask the city for a carve-out, very much like the military had, so that they came down to testify at these hearings. And what they said was, the PBA, the biggest union, they looked at the public and they said, we don't have gay cops now. They don't exist. You can't force us to work with them because they're not fit to serve and they will ruin the cohesion of the department. That was said in public. It was a bold statement. That was the time back in 1981. That's how people felt. So a really brave, well-liked man who had been a cop for 14 years, he was a sergeant, Charles Cochran. He stood up right after that man from the PBA testified and said, I'm proud to be a sergeant in the NYPD. I'm also proud to be a gay man. Now that may not sound like a lot to you, but back then that was huge. It made national news. No one had ever said that. Because at that time, you might lose your job for being gay. You definitely would have people not wanting to work with you, and you might be harassed and targeted by other cops. So what he did was heroic. What he did after that changed the world. He spent that year pulling together other gay cops. They formed what they called the Gay Officers Action League, and we, in April of 1982, had their first meeting. After he did that, and people knew about GOAL, there were GOAL chapters throughout this country. There were other lesbian, gay law enforcement groups that formed internationally, and he really changed the face of policing, and he really changed the world. So I want to thank the mayor and the council for giving us the honor to honor his legacy with this name, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, I'd like to call up Carol Toomey, Paula Morris, and William Soto.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Carol Toomey, and I would like to sincerely thank from the bottom of my heart the mayor and the city council and all the efforts of Jimmy Vaca for renaming what is Dill Place on the corner of Revere Avenue and Dill Place, Bill Toomey Place. My husband, Bill, was a Bronx historian, and he made a huge effort with all of his writings and the Bronx Times Reporter, his weekly column, his books about the Bronx, and his lectures, and his walking tours for the Bronx County Historical Society. Whenever he did anything, he made sure that his work was historically correct. And he loved the Bronx, and I know he would be very humbled in having the street renamed for him on the corner where we lived for 34 years. So I'd like to thank you very much. It's a great honor for myself, for my family, and for Bill. Thank you.
I am Paula Morris. I'm the daughter of Maxine Sullivan. She was not only a renowned singer, as Councilman Gibson said, but she was very active in the community. She was a paraprofessional at Junior High School 136, the Bronx. She was president of the Parents Association, became president of the District 12 School Board, and was very active with the House the Jazz built, which was founded to preserve and to teach jazz in the local community, preserve jazz in the local community. I'd like to thank Councilman Gibson, Bob Gums, Planning Board 3, and Your Honor, Mayor de Blasio for this honor. My family is deeply grateful. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is William Soto, and I'm speaking on behalf of William Soto Way. I would like to start off by saying thank you to God, the Grand Architect of the Universe, also to Mayor Bill de Blasio, Council Speaker Melissa Mark Viverito, and Community Board 11. I would also like to send a special thanks to Avery Toledo and Carlos Diaz. Thank you all for blessing this co-naming, and thank you for celebrating community activism and political awareness.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Michael Ojeda, Denator Guerra, and Jeff Benjamin.
Hello, my name is, good morning first. My name is Denator Guerra. My son is Dennis Guerra. I want to thank the mayor, city council, Richard Donovan Richards, sorry. Dennis was a strong, loving family man who has always helped people in the community to his own peril, as you could witness by the incident. I want to thank you all for this great honor and privilege. Thank you, Mayor and Community Council.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Carmen Ojeda. I'm here representing Brianna Ojeda's Way. I am her mom. I want to thank you, Mayor. I want to thank Stephen Levin and Community Board 2. I just want to say a few words about Brianna. I must sound like an overzealous mom, but my daughter was an angel. She sang in the church choir. She was an honor roll student and a student of the month several times in 1 year. Brianna was chosen to represent the NYC diocese by being a people-to-people ambassador. Brianna was looking forward to going to China that year. When Haiti had that last major earthquake, she sold all of her stuff and donated the money. Imagine pulling up to your house and there are people walking away with your belongings. Her heart was alive. Brianna collected the most donations for UNICEF and in her school. In 2009, she collected $2,500 in raffles and donations. Brianna Marilis was a graduate of Barbizon Modeling School and just landed a job for McDonald's in the commercial. At the time of her passing, she was so excited. St. Francis Xavier School continues a scholarship under my daughter's name for a family that is going through hard times. Sister Kathleen was the nun that was instrumental in establishing the scholarship. It was her experience with Brianna that she told us that children are just not made that way. Sister Kathleen has been the principal of St. Francis Xavier School for more than 50 years, and she has never encountered a soul like my daughter. I just want to thank everyone for listening to me. I'm going to pass it over to my husband.
I would like to start by saying thank you, Councilman Stephen Levine, Borough President Eric Adams, Community Board 2, and Mayor de Blasio for allowing Bergen Street to be co-named in honor of our daughter, Brianna Ojeda. This sign will give our family the support to continue our fight in Albany to bring the Brianna's Law into effect. For 5 years, my family and I have dedicated our lives to the advocacy of police CPR training. The PBA has written a letter of support to this bill as it will save millions of lives once it becomes law. My only 11-year-old daughter was ripped from my family and my life due to the inability of New York City's first responders to perform CPR. What's even more disturbing is that still, after 5 years, according to the American Red Cross, over 1,500,000 New Yorkers have perished due to the first responders' inability to perform CPR. The American Red Cross and American Heart and Stroke Association are willing to train these officers for free. The Brianna's Law has continuously passed the Assembly for 5 years in a row, yet it doesn't make it to the Senate floor. Why is Albany allowing over 300,000 New Yorkers to die each year by not letting this bill become law? And I would like to inform all that police officer Alfonso Mendez from the 84th Precinct shaved his head bald to alter his appearance in effect to hide from the authorities. Only when a lawyer present at the funeral parlor spoke to the media and demanded the resignation of then Police Commissioner Kelly because every police car has GPS. Then did the precinct respond in 5 minutes by calling our family at the funeral parlor to inform us that they found the officer after hiding for 4 days. Recently, Officer Peter Lang was indicted on charges of negligence for waiting 4 minutes to call his emergency in, and a second count for not administering help when help was needed. I hope the new DA will look into this case. All New York lawmakers have a moral obligation to save millions of New York citizens' lives by passing Brianna's Law. No one else needs to die. Because when one family member dies, the whole family experiences death. Please make a difference and support the Brianna's Law because no one is excluded from death.
Good morning. My name is Jeff Benjamin. I'm joined with Josh Galata, Michael Schnall, and Philip Santor from the New York Roadrunners. We are very honored and thankful to City Councilwoman Debbie Rose, Community Board 1, the City Council, and Mayor de Blasio for the naming of Clove Road and Myrtle Avenue on Staten Island into Art Hall Way. Art Hall's gift to New York City was running, an African-American pioneer distance runner who followed in the steps of the legendary Ted Corbett. Art would finish in the top 5 in the early New York City marathons. A ferocious competitor, he took on young runners like Bill Rogers, Rod Dixon, and Lasse Viren. But Art's gift to running was not just his competitiveness. He created the North Shore Track Club, a club on Staten Island which was open to runners of all abilities, backgrounds, racial, ethnic, religious. And Myrtle and Clove became a magnet, especially on Saturday and Sunday mornings, for a lot of kids who could have got into a lot of trouble, but instead decided to join Art to go for a run. A board member of the New York Roadrunners Club, Art also worked very closely with the late Fred LeBeau and created the Urban Running Program, a program which today is now known as the Mighty Milers throughout New York City, where they take a lot of elementary, intermediate school kids and show them the great benefits of health, fitness, and inclusiveness through running. In conclusion, Mayor de Blasio always attends our parade down Forest Avenue throughout the years as councilman and as mayor. He walks by, it must be the water on Forest Avenue. We have a lot of streets named for a lot of people associated with running and the sport that we all consider to be so inclusive. One street is named for Lou Marley. One street is named for Stephen Siller. Another street is named for the late Vic Navarra. And now next year when Mayor de Blasio walks down, he might have to go off a little bit on the curve a bit, but he could definitely see Art Hall Way. Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, Diane Simmons, Cherrick Skinner, and Jack Piccinini.
Hi, I'm Jack Piccinini. On behalf of the Piccinini family and my father, Peter, I'd like to thank Mayor de Blasio and the City of New York. My father was a humble man who did much for the community through his fundraising efforts. He was devoted to the betterment of the community. He was a member of the local business community for over 60 years. East 64th Street and Ralph Avenue has been named after him, and he would see this as a fantastic achievement. Thank you, and have a good day.
Good afternoon. Mayor, councilmen, family, and friends. My name is Diane Simmons, and I'm here representing the Skinner family. Amen. It is with great honor as I stand to give tribute to my mother, Mrs. Dorothy Skinner, who was one not to just sit back, but was to do something. She truly made a difference. The drug dealers shuddered when they saw her. Later, they came to respect her, although they knew she was trying to get rid of them, which she did. My mother, Dorothy Skinner, when she saw something, she said something. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him would not perish, but have everlasting life. Her shell may be gone, but her spirit lives on. To God be the glory.
Giving honor to God, who's also head of my life, to Mayor Bill de Blasio and everyone in their respective places. I also represent the Skinner family, and I'm just going to read an excerpt from the congressional record that was read in Congress in honor of my grandmother under the Honorable Charles B. Rangel. I'm just going to read an excerpt from it. Charles Rangel met Dorothy in his early years in the United States House of Representatives as an active community activist and concerned resident and parent. Dorothy was very engaged in the war on drugs in the 1970s and 1980s and became very active with the New York City Police Department's 30th and 32nd precincts and community councils. Dorothy was both friend and foe of the neighborhood drug dealers, for they all loved her but knew she was leading the fight against them. For the benefit of the neighborhood, she won the war. Dorothy was president of the Block Association. She organized block parties, jazzmobiles, Halloween parties in Hamilton Park, and coordinated activities with the Police Athletic League. Dorothy Mae Skinner joined the board of directors of the West Harlem Group Assistance Incorporated, one of Harlem's oldest and largest community-based developed organizations, which was established more than 30 years ago to revitalize the underinvested West and Central Harlem communities, riddled with dilapidated and abandoned buildings. Dorothy served as chairperson of the West Harlem Group Assistance Board of Directors for over 20 years and was currently serving as the secretary until her passing. Under her leadership, she helped guide the vision of the West Harlem Group Assistance to recreate and help guide the vision of all responsible residents and community-based organizations, and other stakeholders, and mobilized and firmly committed to working together willingly and cooperatively to ensure that Harlem positioned to enter the 21st century as a safe, socially stable, healthy, economically sound, well-educated and informed, and politically strong community. Educated in the New York City public school systems, Dorothy was a determined young woman who received her GED at age 35. It is with great honor and esteem that I stand here to say that women like Dorothy Skinner are precious gifts that we temporarily have in this world, but their assistance, contributions, and accomplishments are far remembered. And I just want to thank you all for standing here today, and thank you, Mayor, for allowing us to do these street name changes and allow us to remember great people like my family and all of your families out there. Have a good one.
I'm going to call up the final speakers, Michelle Choi, Father Richard Gorman, John Sullivan, and Randy Jurgensen.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michelle Choi. I'm the wife of my husband, Thomas Choi. And I just want to thank Mayor de Blasio, the councilman Steve Mattel, and Eklons to make today possible to co-naming my husband, Officer Thomas Choi Avenue on Staten Island, Major Avenue. My husband was very passionate person. He came to New York more than 30 years ago, and it was his dream to have a family and a job as an officer. But unfortunately, he was in this horrific accident. He was hit by a car and he died last year, December 14. And I know he's honored that so many people care about him, his family, and his extended family, TBTA. And I know he will be smiling from the above. Today, we are doing so much good, nice things to remember him. Thank you.
I think it is good afternoon, isn't it? My name is Father Richard Gorman. It was my happy and blessed privilege to be Carmen Rosa's partner at Community Board 12 for 26 years. If I'm lucky enough that Jesus allows me in his mercy to see him face to face when I die, I know he's going to ask me a question, and that question is going to be, tell me one thing you did to make the world a better place. And I'm happy to tell you that I can look the Lord right in the face and say, I asked Carmen Rosa to be the district manager of Community Board 12. It was a decision that I never regretted. It was a decision that was certainly one of the wisest I ever made. And I was reminded every day when Carmen's voice was the first one that I heard and the last one that I spoke to before I went to bed. It was a decision that I was reminded constantly was for the good of other people. It's appropriate that we name a street after Carmen Rosa, particularly the street that is right outside her office at Town Hall, because she wore many hats. She was a community board district manager, an assistant district manager. She was a professor. She was a mentor. She was one of the earliest staff members at BOEDC, the Bronx Overall Economic Development Corporation. But most importantly, she was a wonderful mother and an outstanding friend. Carmen had room on her head for all of the hats that she wore, but more importantly, she had more than enough love in her heart to take care of those who were entrusted to be a part of her life. I'm going to miss hearing that voice, although it's a voice that I won't forget. I'm glad that Councilmember King is going to allow us to think of Carmen every time we come in or out of Town Hall. But more importantly, what will constantly remind us of Carmen's presence is what she engendered in all of us, because Carmen Roser is one of those rare individuals who doesn't talk about love, who doesn't think that she knows what love is. She is love. She realized that love was building up and not tearing down. It was in the giving and not in the getting. It was in the joy of seeing another life enhanced. And the proof that Carmen engendered that in so many is especially seen in her children, Alfredo and Linda, who I've been privileged to watch grow up. When I first met them many, many years ago, we were all a lot younger, and I was a lot healthier. But one thing I do know is that Alfredo and Linda, your mom, will live on in you, and you will be reminded to us of what she did to make this world a better place. So I'm glad we have a chance today to honor your mom, because in doing that, it allows me and everyone else here to say thank you for sharing this great lady with us. Thank you, Councilmember King, for your help. Thank you, Your Honor, and thank you to all who have made this day possible.
Sorry, tall guy problems. My name is John Sullivan. I'm here today to honor my dad, firefighter John Sullivan. He was a fireman in 34 truck for 27 years. What a lot of people don't know is that my grandfather, John Sullivan, was actually a fireman there for 21 years before him. So the block where the firehouse is located will now be known as Firefighter John Sullivan Way, which I think is pretty tremendous. I want to thank the mayor, the city council. I want to thank Matt Delaney and the guys of 8434, which now include my little baby brother here, for all of their hard work to get this done. My dad was a huge believer in the community. For 20 years, he ran a senior citizen dinner at St. Rosa Lima. I could attest to being up at 7 o'clock in the morning baking biscuits for it. But he wasn't a guy of many words, pretty ironically. But towards the end of his career, I would always talk to him and say, Dad, when are you going to retire? When are you going to retire, you know? And he would always say, Johnny, I came onto this job without a plan, and I intend to leave the same way. So, unfortunately, what he didn't plan for was to, mold and inspire probably generations of firefighters. Unfortunately, he passed away before he received his first pension check. So, it's a long fight. Every year on September 11th, we witness people read, tons and tons of names. What you don't hear are the names that are added to that list every single day. I encourage everyone to, contact your local government, encourage the renewal of the Droga Act. It's only going to help sick people. And just remember that they're out there to help people. My dad's #1 goal in life was just to make it a better place. So I encourage everybody to honor him and try to do the same thing. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Randy Jurgensen. I'm here to remember Patrolman Phil Cardillo. I was working with Phil 43 years ago when he lost his life for this city. I've heard it said that you die twice. The day that you die and the day that they forget your name. We never, for 43 years, forgot Patrolman Phil Cardillo's name. Mr. Mayor, City Council, Paul Vallone, I want to thank each and every one of you for the Cardillo family, from the Cardillo family, and I promise you, thousands and thousands of police officers that never forgot. Thank you. I also want to say that Phil is in good company today for this street naming. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Before we sign the final bills, just a quick summary in Spanish. Acabo de firmar 7 leyes. Una de ellas designa a 51 sitios públicos y vías en honor a personas de aportes valiosos a nuestra ciudad. Con las otras leyes, mejoramos el acceso para discapacitados en los parques, estudiamos el impacto del crecimiento de taxis y autos de alquiler en la movilidad urbana, mejoramos la seguridad en los hogares de adultos con discapacidades físicas y mentales y protegemos a los neoyorquinos de apagones y fallos de comunicación en desastres naturales. With that, we're going to sign this legislation. I'd like everyone now to really give a strong New York cheer for all the people we're honoring today.
I want a quick reminder to everybody, the mayor will take pictures with any families or friends who remain in the committee room. If you can line up against the far wall, the staff will provide you with a card to fill out so that we can get these pictures done quickly. Thank you.